Hello and welcome to today's webinar on genealogical resources available at the American Jewish Historical Society, New England Archives. My name is Ginevra Morse, the Director of Education and Online Programs at the New England Historic Genealogical Society. I'll be moderating today's event. NEHGS is a nonprofit organization supported by our members and donors. We provide resources and expertise in nearly all aspects of family history and are pleased to offer this webinar today for our members and friends around the world. Giving today's presentation will be Judy Garner, Director and Managing Archivist at AJHS-NEA, and Stephanie Call, Archivist and Manager of Digital Collections. In 2013, the New England Archives of the American Jewish Historical Society formed a strategic partnership with NEHGS, allowing members of either society full access to the resources, records, and expertise of both organizations. In the next 45 minutes or so, Judy and Stephanie will give a brief overview and history of AJHS, discuss the various resources and collections, including records from the Hebrew Immigrant Aid Society and online content, and the importance of adding historical context to your family history research. At any time during the presentation, feel free to write a question in the panel to the right of your screen. Our presenters will answer them in the last 15 to 20 minutes of the hour. There is not a handout for this lecture, but there is a subject guide on using the AJHS New England Archives, which will be referenced during the presentation. Also, you can take screen or slide captures by clicking on the camera icon on the upper right of your screen. This event is also being recorded, and the video will be posted to our website in the next couple of days. So I will now turn things over to Judy.
Thank you, Ginevra, and welcome to the first American Jewish Historical Society New England Archives webinar. During the webinar, you will hear us refer to ourselves by our acronym of AJHS-NEA. AJHS-NEA is an historical rather than a genealogical society. So what does this mean? Well, the simplified and brief answer to this is a genealogical society's main goal is to help individuals research their particular family histories. These are the experts who are knowledgeable about where and how to access personal family information, such as vital records and census records, that sort of thing, and who know all the tricks of the trade when tackling the proverbial brick walls of genealogy. An historical society's main objective is to collect, preserve, and make available for research the history of a community. An historical society is an archive and collects original documents that have intrinsic, long-term historical value. However, there can be much blurring of the lines. For example, the New England Historic Genealogical Society is both a genealogical and a historical society. AJHS-NEA is a historical society with some records and databases of interest for those researching their family history, and this is what we'd like to highlight for you today. Before moving on, I would like to have you think about how and why an historical society that may not have records of your particular family, but contains the records of the community where your ancestors lived and worked, could be of value to your genealogical research. I'd like to start out today by giving you a brief overview of who we are and what kinds of resources we have. The American Jewish Historical Society New England Archives is located on the 5th floor of the New England Historic Genealogical Society at 99101 Newbury Street in Boston. Founded in 1892, the American Jewish Historical Society is the oldest ethnic historical society in the United States, with its national organization now located in New York City at the Center for Jewish History. AJHS-NEA holds the records of synagogues, Jewish businesses, organizations, families, and individuals in the Greater Boston and New England region. Our collections include such things as photographs, genealogies, artifacts, microfilms, correspondence, ledgers, diaries, and other records of intrinsic historical value that highlight the rich history of the Greater Boston and New England Jewish communities. As Ginevra previously pointed out, in 2013 we formed a strategic partnership with the New England Historic Genealogical Society, and what this means for the public is that membership in either organization gives members access to everything offered by both societies. So what kinds of collections does AJHS-NEA have? The collections at AJHS-NEA are cataloged as institutional records and personal records. These collections have online finding aids or guides to the collections and can be accessed on our website at ajhsboston.org and by looking at the menu bar and choosing the Collections tab. Just a brief word about our finding aids. What are they and why are they helpful? Once a collection is processed or organized by archival standards, the archivist writes a finding aid. These collection guides provide logistical information, such as whether the physical collection is located in New York or Boston, and the call number. Finding aids also give a brief overview of the collection, including the subject matter, relevant names associated with the collection, and the contents of the date, and the contents and date of the materials located in each folder and box. All of our finding aids are online and fully searchable. First, let's take a look at institutional records. As mentioned above, our collections fall into two main categories. Our institutional collections are denoted by an I call number identification and includes the collections of organizations, community service organizations, trade associations, Zionist organizations, burial societies, synagogues, and academic and cultural organizations. A note about the document pictured here. This is an example of an institutional document titled Soap and Water Club from the Young Men's Hebrew Association Hecht House collection and gives us an interesting perspective on the kinds of help such organizations offered new immigrants to help them assimilate into American culture. Institutional records often, but not always, contain financial records, ledgers, membership ledgers, correspondence of rabbis, administrators, or other staff members, publicity, publications, news clippings, and governance such as bylaws, constitutions, and meeting minutes. One thing to keep in mind with synagogue collections is that most of the early Boston synagogues did not, unfortunately, save their records. Most synagogue collections within our holdings are small and contain records that were saved by individual members of the synagogue and not the synagogues themselves. Pictured here is a flyer of a ladies' night event from the Brotherhood Bulletin of Temple Ohave Shalom 1923 and can be found in the Temple's collection. Often synagogue bulletins contain articles and advertisements for events like these, where participants in the event and their involvement may be listed. Synagogue Brotherhood and Sisterhood bulletins may be a way of finding out more information about ancestors. Some other examples of our larger institutional collections are those of the Combined Jewish Philanthropies, the Jewish Community Relations Council, and the Bureau of Jewish Education. Here, too, with a little preliminary research and a good look through our finding aids, you may find a family link to these organizations through membership lists, financial records, or event committees. A tip not to be overlooked. Some synagogues have their own archive, so if you know the synagogue that your ancestors may have attended, and if that synagogue is still in operation, you should check first with them to see if they might have their own archive and whether or not they might have records concerning your family. You should also check our list of institutional records and again the synagogue finding aids on our website to see if we might have records of the synagogue you are looking for. A few examples of synagogues that have their own archives are Temple Israel of Boston, Temple Emmanuel of Newton, and Mishkan Tefillah of Chestnut Hill. I'd now like to talk a little bit about our personal collections. Our personal collections are denoted by a P-call number identification and includes the collections of families and individuals. Some personal collections do have institutional records within those collections. A great example of this is the Rabb family papers. The Rabb family was the original owners of the Stop and Shop supermarket chain, and within their family papers are large amounts of photographs documenting the family business. Another example is the Morris Finkelstein papers, which includes information concerning Temple Emmanuel of Newton. Did your ancestors work for Stop and Shop, or were they a member of Temple Emmanuel in Newton? Looking through those all-important finding aids or by using our digital archive, it's the best way to discover many of these connections within collections. Just a brief note on the photograph above. This is a family photograph from the Stanley and Mary Ann Kane Snyder family papers. So what kinds of documents are usually found in the personal papers in our collections? Personal papers may include such things as diaries, correspondence, photographs, scrapbooks, newspaper clippings, business or organizational records, school records, artifacts, personal financial records, among other materials. Keep in mind that we would only have those family records that have been donated to the Society. Although this seems obvious, I mention it because some patrons do contact us with the notion that we have their family records, but nothing from the family has been given to us. This being said, consider checking with us if you do have documents that you think may have long-term historical value. We can help you determine what should be preserved for future generations and how to keep them safely either in your home, or even better, we can instruct you on how to go about donating them to our archive. Pictured here is a Rosh Hashanah card from the Weiner family papers, early 1900s. Looking through cards like these is a wonderful trip back in time. The detail is amazing. So we've established that most of our collections fall into two main categories of institutional and personal collections. However, we do have a small amount of documents that do not fit here for one or more reasons. These items are designated as subject files, which are miscellaneous items accessioned or collected by us over a period of time. Materials may be determined as a subject file if they meet one of the following criteria. 1, the material is a secondary source, not an original document. 2, the materials lack background information but may be of historical significance. Or 3, the provenance or origin of the material is unclear. Some examples of subject files include unpublished family histories, copies of news articles written by the donor, and orphan brochures, photographs, or ephemera. Subject files are currently divided into two groups, Collection 1 and Collection 2, and filed alphabetically. The only distinction between 1 and 2 is the order in which we receive the materials, but not necessarily the earliest materials by date. So you will want to look through both subject files collections lists when doing your research. As we acquire more materials that fall into the subject file category, more of these artificial collections will be created. And finally, I do want to mention that we do have a small amount of microfilm, which includes publications and collections. There is material here that may be of interest to genealogists, especially those who are researching New York ancestors. The microfilm titles are too numerous to list here, but a few of the ones of particular interest to genealogists are listed on your screen. Our microfilm includes 9 publications and 20 collections. All but one of the collections has original records held in AJHS, New York. The one exception is that of the Stephen Wise papers. These originals are located in the Brandeis University Archives. I encourage researchers to browse the finding aids of these collections. If they have ancestors who settled in New York, actually anyone with ancestors who settled out of the New England area may want to check our national organization in New York. You can access their website by going to ajhs.org. I will now turn things over to Stephanie, who will tell you about our most important genealogical collection.
Thanks, Judy. The Hebrew Immigrant Aid Society, or HIAS, is, as Judy said, one of our most important collections at AJHS-NEA. It is also one of our most utilized. HIAS was founded in New York City in the 1880s by the Russian Jewish community in New York as a response to the influx of Russian Jewish immigrants fleeing the pogroms in Russia and Eastern Europe. The Boston office was chartered in 1904, and it operated autonomously from the New York office even after their merger in 1916. HIAS ensured that Jewish immigrants had access to holiday and religious services and kosher food, and they provided housing and social services and helped to find jobs and schools for immigrants, often on very short notice. The records in this collection span from 1886 to 1977. The bulk of the materials are from 1938 to 1954, which, as many of you know, coincides with the rise of the Nazis in Europe, the Holocaust, and displaced persons camps following the Second World War. Although HIAS was founded as an organization to assist Jewish immigrants, in the 1950s it began diversifying, helping non-Jewish families immigrate from Italy, England, the Middle East, and China. Also, as a general note, the Boston HIAS records are not all-inclusive of every Jewish immigrant that arrived in the port of Boston. HIAS helped only those people who had very serious welfare needs. The collection contains ship arrival lists, photographs, and administrative records, but most importantly to genealogists, it contains individual case files and arrival cards. The materials in each individual case file vary significantly. In the previous slide is a photograph of one of the more robust case files. It has a photograph, birth certificate, and correspondence. Other case files can include affidavits, which are filled out and signed by the sponsoring family member, and which may include the employment and household information of those sponsoring family members. There may be naturalization, marriage, or birth certificates, names of family members that immigrated with the head of household, correspondence from various agencies assisting the individual and their family, or from the individual themselves, and sometimes just carbon copies of forms with piecemeal information. You may find one case file for an individual or multiple case files for the same individual. We sometimes have case files that are empty, and we don't know why that is. On our website, you can view the finding aid for HIAS. The first series is individual case files. These are actually listed in 2 alphabetical lists in alphabetical order. If you find a family member's name and you would like access to the file, please email us at reference@ajhsboston.org and provide us with the box and folder number along with the full name of the family member listed on the case file. Because the collection is extremely fragile, we don't allow researchers to handle the files themselves. And just a quick tip for searching the online finding aid. There's a search box built into the online finding aid in the top left corner, and that will highlight the names you're searching for. We also have thousands of arrival cards in the HIAS collection as well. These cards may include the names, ages of the head of household, spouse, and/or children, the address they're going to, their country of origin, the date of arrival, and the ship name. One thing to keep in mind is that arrival cards and case files seldom match one-to-one. We may have a case file but not an arrival card for a person and vice versa. So if you don't see someone's name on the list of individual case files, still send us an email about the arrival cards. We'll check and something could turn up. I'm now going to hand things back to Judy, who will talk about databases.
Now I would like to talk to you a little bit about our databases and how to use them. These databases will be very helpful to genealogists researching their Massachusetts ancestors. The first one I would like to highlight is the Jewish Cemeteries of Massachusetts database. The Jewish Cemetery Association of Massachusetts, also known as JCAM, owns and operates 105 of the 209 Massachusetts Jewish cemeteries. The New England Historic Genealogical Society, in partnership with AJHS-NEA, continues to upload records from JCAM into this database with the goal of eventually including all of the New England Jewish cemeteries. We currently have over 24,000 records in the Jewish Cemetery database, including 37 cemeteries in total, with a date range between 1853 to 2013. This database can be accessed from our website, but is more easily accessed from AmericanAncestors.org, the website of the New England Historic Genealogical Society. Once on the home page of NEHGS, you will want to click on the Browse feature rather than the Search feature, as the Browse feature will take you directly to a list of databases. You can see the Browse feature up above. Next, locate and click on the American Jewish Historical Society New England Archives Jewish Cemeteries designation by using the magnifying glass or search feature for the easiest access. On this next page, you will want to take a few minutes to investigate some of the different features here. For example, you can click on either the link to AJHS-NEA website or that of the JCAM website, highlighted in blue, for more information on either organization. There are also links to the JCAM guidebook and a search tips feature at the bottom of the page, which can be very helpful. Once you decide to go on with your search, click on the Search tab on the menu bar above. Enter the name of your ancestor. I have entered the name of George Weiner to use as our example today. You must scroll all the way to the bottom of the page to click on the Search tab. If your ancestor is in the database, their name will come up here. Search results may bring up more than one name as seen in the search results. Choose the one that you believe is the correct spelling by clicking on the name. Note that under Events, some information is displayed. This now takes you to the record with information such as date of death, name, location, and address of the cemetery. Notice the small blue button with the white plus sign beside the name. By clicking on this, you will get more detailed information. Here you will see the more extensive information concerning the location of the gravesite of your ancestor, including grave, section, lot, and side numbers listed under the name. This can be very helpful for those that wish to visit the actual gravesite where you may also find other important information on the gravestone, such as Hebrew names and the names and dates of other family members buried there. Also note the blue arrows beside the page indicator up above to the right. By clicking on the forward or back arrow, you may find other family members. I have clicked on the forward arrow, and seen here is the record of Gussie Weiner. The names are listed alphabetically within your search, so you may even be lucky enough to uncover previously unknown ancestors. The Jewish Cemeteries of Massachusetts database is online and free to the public, so I encourage people to use it. If you do not find your relative in the database now, check back as we continue to add more and more records all the time. Some of the records we will be adding soon are from a recently acquired book donated to us from the Jewish Historical Society of Western Massachusetts, containing cemetery records of that area of the state, and which includes an additional 22 cemeteries, including the following 10 towns: Springfield, West Springfield, Chicopee, Northampton, North Adams, Pittsfield, Shutesbury, Amherst, Sandersfield, and Greenfield. These records have been digitized and will be available in the near future. This next database is one of our most popular for the amount of information researchers have been able to uncover. I'd like to encourage anyone doing genealogical research in Greater Boston and New England to search the Boston Jewish Advocate database. The Boston Jewish Advocate was founded in 1902 and is the oldest continually circulated English-language Jewish newspaper in the United States, and the paper is still being published today. The Jewish Advocate has published weekly every week since its founding over 100 years ago. The paper is the primary Jewish newspaper for the Greater Boston and Eastern Massachusetts metropolitan areas and for much of New England. This is a great resource for genealogists and can be searched for such information as birth, death, and marriage announcements, organizational involvement, bar and bat mitzvah announcements, events, and family business advertisements and information. The database covers the years 1905 to 1990. Newspaper articles are text searchable using optical character recognition, or OCR, which means that you can enter a person's name, an event, organization, or business name, and anywhere, no matter the date of your search criteria, it will come up in the search results. Just a note that the Jewish Advocate is an in-house only ProQuest database which can be accessed from any of the computers in the reading rooms throughout the building by searching databases and clicking on the Jewish Advocate, but it cannot be accessed from your home computer. Here you can see a partial list of internal databases from the NEHGS library homepage. Notice that the Jewish Advocate at the bottom, by clicking on the Advocate, you land on that database. Here is the landing page where you can enter your search. We have entered the name of Rudolph Weiner, actually the son of George Weiner from our cemetery search. Remember, you can also search by event, subject matter, or dates. You may want to narrow or refine your search here on the advanced search page. You can use the and/or feature to add more specific information to your search, or as we have done here by selecting any or all of the types of criteria listed below. We have chosen this feature to see what we can find concerning Rudolph. Once you have refined your search, click on the search button. This screenshot shows us the results of our search. There are 17 results listed. I see that number 17 is an obituary for Rudolph Weiner. Obituaries are great things to look at as they list lots of information like date of death, family, sometimes education and occupation, and even sometimes the cause of death. I have chosen Rudolph's obituary as our example seen here. From this page, you have the option of printing this or emailing this to your own personal email address. These features are located in the upper right-hand corner of your screen. If you choose the email option, go to the middle of the page where it says email address. Enter your personal email address, then click Continue to send the document to your home email. Before moving on, I want to mention that we have recently accessioned the Boston Jewish Times, 1945 to 1992. This was another local newspaper that we are in the process of digitizing and hope to have available in the next few months. Unlike the Advocate, the Boston Jewish Times will be accessible on the web through our digital archives and will also be searchable by optical character recognition. Again, this means your search of the Times will pull up your search criteria wherever it appears in the newspapers, no matter the date or edition. Pictured here are two photographs of the physical newspaper collection of the Jewish Times. The newspapers are bound for extra protection, but as you can see from the photo on the right, the papers are yellowing and becoming brittle with age. Any amount of handling by researchers would quickly destroy the newspapers and all the important information they contain. Digitizing is not only a great way to help in the research process, but it is also a way to capture and preserve long-term valuable information in more than one format. Unlike the Jewish Advocate, the Boston Jewish Times is currently out of circulation. And what we have is the newspaper in its entirety over the 47 years of its operation. I'll now hand it back over to Stephanie, who will tell you all about our digital archives.
AJHS-NEA began mass digitizing collections in 2007, originally for an in-house system, but more recently we've switched to a content management system that can be accessed from anywhere there's internet access. Currently, we have over 2 million images digitized and 300,000 available online for researchers. The digital archive is fully discoverable, meaning that documents in the digital archive will show up in browser search results. There are two primary methods of searching within the digital archive: a full-text keyword search for a name or subject that is powered by OCR software, or a traditional search using the box and folder number information from our finding aids. You can search through multiple collections or just one. In short, there are really multiple ways to discover information in our digital archive. Users can also utilize multiple viewing formats. The page flip view, which, because we upload our collections to mimic the physical collections, will provide you with a similar experience of paging through the folder in our reading room. Or you can browse the search results, viewing the thumbnail image and associated information, or click on individual images to see them in the image viewer. What I hope more users will take advantage of is the Web 2.0 functions of the digital archive, which allows you to leave a comment or tag an image. This would be especially useful for the myriad of unidentified photographs we have in the collections. If someone were to identify people they know in those photographs for future researchers, it would be incredibly helpful. You can also mark your favorite images to download or print, and most importantly, you can access the collections from the comfort of your own home. Although the digital archive is free of use for people, there is currently a user login process. So if you're interested in a particular collection, I would need a username for you, and then I can actually set you up with an account in our digital archive. You can create a username through worldcat.org, and setting up an account with them is free. So just a quick tour of our digital archive. This is the home page, and you can locate it at archives.ajhsboston.org. And next we have the collection, an example of a collection landing page, which generally have an image from the collection and some information about the collection. And followed down below by links to the online finding aids for each collection and suggested topics, which we actually use as bookmarks for individual collections. So here's an example of a traditional search using finding aids. This kind of search is generally used by researchers who know what they're looking for specifically and in their finding aid see something of use. So here, if I was a researcher looking at the Jacoman Club finding aid and I wanted to look at box 1 and folder 1, I could do an exact search for that. And then here are my results for box 1, folder 1 of the Jacoman Club. However, if I wanted to find out more information about a specific person or organization or topic, I can do a full text search through all collections. And so here's our friend Rudolf Weiner again, and I'm searching all fields for him, which means I'm searching through the collection name, the description fields, subject fields, and the OCR text. And here are the results for Rudolf Weiner. And as you can see, he comes up in a variety of different collections, including his own family's papers, the Weiner Family Papers, the Jewish Community Relations Council, and then along here, you can also see he comes up in the Farband Labor Zionist Order and the Addendum to the Combined Jewish Philanthropies, and a couple of collections that I wouldn't have thought to look in. So this is an example of why a full text search sometimes is the best way to go. I wouldn't have thought to look for him in the George and Sadie Kramer papers, the Leo Shapiro newspaper collection, the Maurice Zygmunt papers, or the papers of Percy Brand. And this is just an example of what an image looks like in the image viewer, with the OCR software highlighting the name terms. And along the side here, you have the content bar, which identifies where his name comes up in each image in a folder. And then down below each image, you'll have the metadata and the transcript for each image. And when I say for each image, I generally mean those that are actually typescripts, handwritten images we need to transcribe. And so those are not OCR'd. And then this is the page flip view. And here you have your little arrows at the bottom there that will help you flip from one page to another in the folder. And that's what gives you that reading room experience. And then finally, if you wanted to save images as favorites, you could do so by clicking on an image and saying that it was a favorite, and then going to your favorites folder, where you have the option to either download it as a zip archive file or a PowerPoint 2007 file. I'm not sure why anyone would do that. I recommend the zip archive file. but that basically will give you a couple of options to work with. And so that's a very quick tour of the digital archives, and now I'll return it to Judy.
Before we open it up for questions, I'd like to add some context and review to our presentation. At the beginning of the webinar, I asked you to think about how and why an historical society like AJHS-NEA that may not have any records of your particular family, but contains the records of the community where your ancestors lived and worked, could be of value to your genealogical research. Here are some things to consider. Not everyone leaves behind records depicting their lives. Most of us will not find journals or diaries written by our great-great-grandmother living in the shtetl in the Pale of Settlement. But just maybe someone did, and just maybe there is a historical society or archive in the city or town near the shtetl that has preserved records that document what life was like at that time that your great-great-grandmother lived there. And by investigating these records, you will get a sense of what life was like in that time and place. Researching the history of the community where your ancestors lived and worked can give you a sense of what life was like for them. For example, why did your ancestors settle in Boston and not New York or elsewhere in the country? What were the Boston Jewish neighborhoods like at the time when your grandfather was growing up? What kind of help might your immigrant ancestors have had when they first came to New England? What was important to the community? What kind of events might your ancestors have participated in? Once you have the family tree and have gathered the vital statistics, an historical society can help you understand the story of your family as you imagine what life was like for those that came before by investigating the history of the communities where they lived. And finally, a brief recap of points to remember. AJHS-NEA is a historical society, not a genealogical society. Vital records are best accessed from state archives or genealogical societies such as NEHGS. Historical societies can be an important part of genealogical research. Online resources at AJHS-NEA include the Digital Archive and Finding Aids and the JCAM database, and in-house only access to the Jewish Advocate. You actually have to access that on site. Investigate AJHS-NEA collections through our online finding aids to start the process of creating historical background for your family histories. You can learn more about the resources of AJHS-NEA by reading our subject guide located at AmericanAncestors.org. Thank you for joining us today. I hope you learned more about our resources. And now I will turn it back over to Ginevra.
Thank you, Judy and Stephanie, for your presentation. So now let's tackle some of your questions. If you have anything you'd like to ask, please type it in the questions panel to the right of your screen, and we'll answer as many as we can in the time provided. So a question for well, we have a few questions about the HIAS collection. Stephanie, maybe you could answer these. So is the HIAS collection part of the digital archive and available online?
Right now, no. It is extremely fragile, and we're hoping to raise money or get money from a grant to digitize it. We have a grant submitted that we hope to get some good news from soon, but there's a lot of competition out there. So hopefully it will happen one day, but right now it's not in the digital archive.
Okay, and Donna asks if you could actually repeat the process for creating a digital archives account.
Sure. You're going to go to www.worldcat.org. That's WORLDCAT.org. And you can set up a username and password there, and then send me at reference@ajhsboston.org your username and the collections that you'd like to see. And then I'll give you access to the digital archive with your username.
Great, thank you. So Judy, maybe you could just kind of recap what resources or services do you provide at the library that someone wouldn't be able to access online?
Well, for one thing, as I mentioned in the presentation, the Boston Jewish Advocate can only be accessed here, and that is really a great resource for genealogists. The other thing I would say is that although we are in the process of digitizing all of our collections, not all of the collections are digitized. So we suggest strongly that people, again, go to our website, look at our finding aids, and if you identify a collection and a box or two or however many may apply to your research, to email us, set up an appointment, and you can actually see the original documents. I want to stress that an appointment is important because a lot of our collections are stored off-site.
Okay, and Felicia asks, are there any documents from pre-1860 in the Boston Jewish community? Judy, would you like to answer that? Great.
We may have a few documents that are earlier than 1860, but for the most part, around 1850, 1860 is really when the Boston Jewish community came into being. There were Jews, of course, that lived in the Boston area before that, but there was no real organizational or institutional structure. In New York, there are colonial records that date way back, but and some of them do relate to New England, but those things are in our New York archive.
Okay, thank you. And another question for you, Judy. Lionel wants to know, how may someone become a member of the AJHS-NEA?
Well, you can do that by going to our website, and/or you can contact me directly, either at judy.garner@AJHS-Boston, or by my phone number, which is area code 617-226-1245. But you can definitely do it online, either through our website or also the New England Historic Genealogical's website at ancestry.org, AmericanAncestors.org.
And another question for you, Judy, from Lionel, who asks, are there volunteer opportunities available for people who want to be more involved with the society?
Thank you, Lionel. That's a great question. Yes, we do have volunteer opportunities, and every semester we usually have interns from colleges as well that help us out. But definitely, again, contact me, Judy Garner, at ajhs.org, or you can call me at 617-226-1245. I'd love to talk to anybody who would like to become more involved. We can always use help.
All right, and Stephanie, maybe a question for you. You know, of course, you talked about Boston collections, and we have some greater Boston collections. How far does that extend? Would we have anything for, say, Connecticut?
We have some collections, some synagogue collections from Connecticut. They're very small, though. Again, the best thing is to look online at our findings. Off the top of my head, I don't think we have any family papers from Connecticut. We do have a lot of North Shore of Boston collections, and those are actually being digitized. We have a partnership with them. And we have very few Rhode Island area collections as well. So once again, I would just look at our finding aids online.
Okay, and maybe another question for Judy. Are you aware of any similar libraries or collections for the Ohio or Pennsylvania areas? Would those be in New York or somewhere else?
Yes, New York has the national collections, and also they have collections from all the Americas, which includes Central and South America Jewish communities. And they are located at the Center for Jewish History, which also includes four other organizations. So I would contact the Center for Jewish History if you're looking for things outside of the area. They're also, I would do Google searches to see what other Jewish historical societies you might find out there in a particular area. Oftentimes these are small volunteer-run organizations, but that's another thing to look for.
Great, and I think Stephanie has some more to say about the previous question regarding Connecticut.
Yes, I do. If somebody is interested in records of Jewish communities in Connecticut, there is the New Haven Jewish Historical Society, and there's also one in Hartford. And then Judy was trying to flag me earlier for people who are interested in Western Massachusetts collections. There is a historical society, Jewish Historical Society in Western Massachusetts as well.
Great, and so if people have questions about who they should contact, what societies exist, how should they get a hold of you? Is reference at AJHS-Boston.org the best way? Judy, do you want to answer that?
You can contact us by contacting me directly or through the reference email. We check those daily, and we try to get back to people as soon as possible.
Great. Well, I think we've answered quite a few questions. I know that there are still some out there. If you have questions specific to your family and to your research, be sure to contact us at reference@ajhsboston.org. You can also hire the research services team through the New England Historic Genealogical Society. We're certainly happy to help there, or we can also provide consultations and help guide you in your research as well. So if you're interested in learning any more about those services that I just mentioned, I will include URLs and emails and links in the email that I sent to you tomorrow. So thank you again for joining us today. As you leave the event, you'll have the opportunity to fill out a survey and give us your feedback. As we continue to expand our webinars and online offerings, any and all feedback is extremely helpful and appreciated. If you'd like to access more how-to resources or learn about upcoming online educational programs, please visit our online learning center, americanancestors.org/learning-center. I hope to see you at our online programs in the future. Goodbye for now.